All right, so this week on Who All Gonna Be There,
Who all gonna be there?
we have Kia Speaks hanging out in Atlanta right now, yeah?
Yes. How are y'all?
Doing good. How are you? You good?
I'm good. I'm as good as can be considering all that's going on.
There's a lot going on.
There's a
That's
lot.
for sure.
But yeah, Kia, we have our own introduction of who you are and what you do. But if you could share your side of who you are, what you do, and why you do it with the listeners.
I am Kia Speaks, and I am a person who talks way too much on the internet. Uh, I do it via blogs, via video, via tweets and Instagram posts. And I really like having conversations about theology, culture, and justice, and the intersection of it all, and just how it shows up in our lives on the day-to-day, and how we can use that to be better people and to create a better society for all of us to live in.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm sure right now you have a lot to say if you're speaking on justice in particular.
Yeah, my friend hit me up this morning and she was like, "Are you okay? I know how this stuff drains you and I just wanted to check on you." So I am doing a lot of self-care right now because I'm also like an empath. I take in all the emotions. So just seeing people in the conversations they're having around the VP choice, I have decided to like detach to a certain degree and not to the point of being disinterested, but that I'm not taking in everyone's emotions and reactions to that. Yeah. And I had to ground myself in where I am and the work that I'm going to do for the rest of 2020 and shut some stuff out so that I can be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. On your site, you describe yourself as an unapologetic instigator.
Which I love.
Love. Were you always unapologetic in your instigating, or is that something you grew into and learned?
So I currently work at a church, and I told them in a staff meeting, like, I was a holy hellraiser growing up because I always wanted to do what was right, even if I knew it would be chaotic. So my grandmother smoked cigarettes when I was younger. I would take her cigarettes and hide them and then watch her like search around the house like a crazy woman looking for the cigarettes and nothing. Yeah. So I have always had this like chaotic energy of around justice and helping people find what's right for them.
Yeah. I love that you're calling it chaotic energy, but with the biggest smile in the world on your face, because you're like, it's chaotic, but it's for a good reason.
Wait, you're Sagittarius, right?
Sagittarius and me, like, yes, this
I'm building a full picture.
I'm better about like, I have always been really good at tearing shit down. I'm getting better at like tearing it down and also offering a vision for what can be. So I'm not just coming through wrecking and flipping tables anymore, but I'm trying to take people to something else as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, from my exposure to you, because I'm so removed from Twitter world, and I feel like that is a large platform for you. You know, I gotta join. I gotta get on board. But the exposure that I have had to you through Alexia, you're so good at just starting a conversation of going, here's an idea, here's something that everyone has a loud opinion about, but let's think on it. Let's do some critical thinking on it.
Yeah.
And how do you go? I mean, are those just the thoughts that you're having naturally in your daily life? Do you sit down and go, oh, I'm going to be more of an advocate for this? Or how do those things come about for you?
A lot of it started with me thinking out loud. Like when I started, particularly on Twitter, I started on Twitter with like 200 people who I knew, friends of friends, family, and just having conversations. So a lot of this was me thinking and growing out loud. And once I got to a point where I had a better understanding of things and I started to get a little platform, I wanted to make sure that I was using that to help other people grow and to change the way they understood the world and culture so that we can create a more inclusive society. I'm all about bringing people in and to get people to respect people's humanity and dignity, even across differences.
Yeah. One, like you said, the reaching out to many people and many different kinds of people. When we were doing our research, I saw in one of your more recent blog posts, you were talking specifically about justice and how different people have different positions against justice, no matter their identity, that can be harmful. Like even some of the people who are being affected by injustice can have harmful views and actions in pursuing justice. So my question really is, from what anyone's standpoint, how do you manifest justice personally? Like what's a more immediate way to start seeking that and acting in it?
Oh, that is such a great question and such a big question. I think for me, I have purposely, so one thing that helped me is I'm currently in seminary and we take this class about living into our values. And in that class, we study every form of oppression you can think about, from talking about how Christianity is a privileged religion and to understanding how to make room for people of other faiths, to racism, sexism, and understanding like transgender issues. And like, so all of this is a conversation we're having through a theological lens. And what that course helped me understand, that it's not about Black people specifically. I'll talk to my people. Like we are really good at understanding racism because we suffer from that oppression. But we don't always understand expand our understanding of racism to our understanding of power and oppression. So what I try to do personally is always look at who has power in this situation and who doesn't, and how is the person with power causing harm to the person who does not have as much power and privilege as they are. So if understanding normativity and like what people are expected to be in America, people are expected to be white, male, and heterosexual and cisgender. So like if you're ever on the opposing side of that, like you have less power and privilege than someone who does. So just to understand that even as a Black woman, I have power and privilege in certain areas. I am cisgender. I am heterosexual, unfortunately.
Word.
Like I have social privilege. I have academic privilege. I have economic privilege. Like, so whenever I come to a conversation or an issue, I understand that I am coming with these privileges and there are people who don't have it. So I try to use my privilege to make room for others, to make sure that more people are at the table, to not speak over, but to bring other people, amplify other voices. I've learned the hard way not to speak over people because that will embarrass you in your justice work. And just the most important lesson is to listen and learn from people who don't look like you, who don't love like you, and who don't live like you and experience the world like you.
Yeah. We need way more people like you.
Right.
Way more people. But this is, I mean, what we love about starting this show about Doing You Good, Sis, is that we're bringing in people that are like-minded, and we are so happy to talk to you about all of this because we want change.
Yeah.
We want change, and there are not many people who are effortless or at least fearless in being outspoken about learning in time and learning out loud.
Because it's scary, because you mess up. And I often think about when I messed up really bad on transgender issues. And like, I think about the harm that I caused people in my very public mess up. But it's important, like, you make amends and you apologize for that harm. But it's also important that, like, you change your behavior. Yeah. And like, when you mess up, there may be people who don't forgive you, but the reality is we're all on this path where we're growing and we're learning. And I really want us to all to do that, and not necessarily out loud, because sometimes it is best that you go into your corner, listen and learn, and then come back out. Like, don't make mistakes out loud and in public like I have. But I think it's so important to be grounded in that we are here not just for ourselves, but to make room for others and to create
Yeah.
a world where we're all safe, happy, and whole.
Yeah. What specifically with sex and gender, like you said, that was a major hiccup for you at one point. What conversations do you find yourself having most when you're sharing information and challenging people's thoughts about sex and gender?
What I have learned to do is, and this goes back to when I said to bring people to the table instead of speaking over people. So the issues that I really try to speak on are about Black women. I talk a lot about sexuality in Black women and just what womanhood means for me, a cisgender, cisgender. I'm sorry, I'm drinking tequila.
I got mezcal. We good.
Plow through.
A cisgender, heterosexual Black woman, and like what it means to embrace all parts of that womanhood. So like, I am an intelligent woman. I am a spiritual woman. I'm also a sexual woman, and to be that whole woman without dividing it into parts and only showing up in different aspects at different points.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I try to also amplify voices of people who live differently than me so that we can create a society where we're all here and we're all treated with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
We can be and bring our full selves to the table.
Yeah. And I know from following you, it's been 10 years at this point of following each other on Twitter. Wow. But in the last decade, I know that you often speak on things on the timeline from a theological lens. Now, starting seminary is newer, but you've always done this. You've always had this. But I also know from us following each other for a decade that the church wasn't always kind on your journey. So was your pursuit of seminary to kind of nurture that, or was it like do you think it was like a reaction or an interest? How did you want to study the church more?
Oh, that is a great question. So I've had 2 breakups with the church, and the final one has been a pretty solid separation. And I know people are going to find this weird because I work at a church. Yes, I go to work at a church. I have not been an active member of a church since 2013-ish, I believe, 12, 13-ish. So my first breakup with the church came when I was a senior in high school. I became pregnant. And it became this whole deal, like, where people expected me to apologize for my sin, and I was refused communion, and the pastor of the church would not bless my son because and so that was the first thing that made me ask some like really serious questions, because I looked around the church when all of this was asked of me, and I was like, but this church is full of single people in here who are having sex. So like the math is not adding up at this point. And then I look at his sons. He has 6, I'm sorry. And 3 of them have kids out of wedlock. And never have they gotten in front of the church to apologize for their sin and or been refused communion. So now I'm like, this is about picking on the young girl and showing power and control. And this is also steeped in misogyny because, like, this has never been required of the people sitting in your household. So that was the first time when I was like, you know what? I never questioned, like, God, because I have always felt God outside of the church. So it was never a question of God, but it was a question of like, this is problematic. There's some bad stuff in here that I couldn't even really articulate at 17, 18 years old, but this is not what I want to feed me spiritually. I got depressed in 2004, and I did what all church folks do and not go to therapy, but go back to church and like threw myself into that, and it ended up being a big sex scandal at the church. And what I realized in that situation is they knew that the sex scandal was about to hit the paper. And they really, I say spiritual manipulation, and I don't use that lightly. Like, they literally got in the pulpit a week or two before and said, like, we need to cover our bishop because we see a spiritual attack coming down on him. And then 2 weeks, this very like natural and realistic attack that you saw come down. So that made me realize, like, people are really standing in this pulpit and doing manipulative shit with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I stepped back. And what I was doing, like during that time, I was always blogging. So I was doing a lot of blogging about theology and culture and like trying to make connections. But I really wanted to make sure that what I was giving people was sound and that I knew what I was talking about, and it just wasn't me in my feelings.
Yeah.
So, the third time I got a seminary application, I started in 2006 with the application. I finally sent it in 2016. So that is the long story of how I got to seminary. I just wanted to be accountable for what the information I was putting out into the world. And I never wanted to manipulate or mislead people the way I felt I had been manipulated and misled by the church.
Yeah.
Wow. That is such a beautiful story. I mean, you had to go through a lot, obviously, but what a beautiful story, because I personally don't have a relationship with the church either, and I haven't since I was a kid for similar reasons to yours. But I just think it's so beautiful that you've come out of this and found your balance of faith and spirituality, and made your own opinions, because I think that was a lot of the conflict I had, was a hypocritical kind of nature that also came with these people who are in charge.
Yeah. So what does theology mean to you now as someone who's not active in the church but studying faith and discipline?
Oh, that's a great question.
I'm excited for the answer.
I'm on the edge of this couch.
Theology, talk about God. I think God is love. I think God is like pure love. And whenever I experience something that is not pure love, I question where God is in that thing. I think when you see, Old Testament and New Testament, it really all boils down to one thing: to love God and to love people. And I really don't think you can love God or express faith without loving God's creation, and that's people. So I work really hard to love and care for people on this side of heaven, and I also believe like heaven will take care of itself. Whatever happens after we die will be that, but we have a responsibility for how heaven on earth looks and how society looks. So I really work hard to empower people to make society better for all of God's creation, so that we can experience the goodness of the Lord on this side of heaven.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then even from that broader sense, like that theological sense where faith comes with many different names. When you're studying theology, it comes with a lot of different resources.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. I'm curious how you have, I guess it's maybe just a part of your nature. Maybe I'm answering my own question, and maybe it's just a part of your nature as the Sag that you are. But I'm curious, you also say that you are an empath, and I also identify the same way. So I'm wondering, especially in this, let's bring it more current, especially in this time where we've entered the pandemic in the last few months, do you find that is it ever, I don't want to say is it harder to use your voice in this time? Do you have to reserve more time for yourself, for your child, for whatever you're doing? Is it harder to speak out during this time where everyone is collectively going through it?
That is a great question. And I think I have tried to become more strategic about when and how I speak. So even like with the election, I've said, like, I'm not arguing with folks who feel like their best option in this political moment is to not vote, because like if what I am doing, I am putting my energy into explaining, educating people on what's at stake, empowering them to not just register and vote and understand like voter suppression issues, but also to be involved with democracy outside of election day, because this is like a 365 day a year job. So I'm focusing there instead of arguing with people who are saying the system is rigged, I'm not voting, they're both the same. Like, because that drains me of my energy. So I have to focus my energy and my work on what I feel will empower them and impact the most people. I have also had to, because quarantine has been harder on me than I think I've ever clearly stated, because I've just been dealing with a lot of anxiety myself. Like my dad is a doctor, my mom has a daycare, my sister is an ER nurse. So like a lot of this at the beginning particularly is like my whole family could be gone before we even get through this thing, because I'm privileged. I sit in my house and work all day. Like I will say the church I work for, they shut down. So I'm working from home every day. I have economic privilege. I can order my groceries and they bring it to my doorstep. So, you know, I am living in a bubble, but I could lose everything because people I love aren't. So I think it's just really been, I've had to learn to take the time to take care of me, to know that, to learn how to strategically get through the noise when everyone is screaming, and to know that every conversation isn't one that I'm meant to be involved in. So to know when and where to show up.
Because she's what? An adult. Okay.
Grown woman.
That's how you sum that up.
Right.
I try on good days.
Have you found good keys to kind of channel or ease that anxiety, like things outside of work and hosting these conversations? Have you found new tools in the pandemic yet?
I wish I could say yes, but my son, who is 20 years old and
An icon. You know how I feel.
Wow, 20.
Imagine being 20 years old and stuck in the house with your parents in the middle of a global pandemic. Like, that's not what anyone wants, parent or child, but here. And he's been very clear of reminding me, like, work is not everything. You need to take a break and take care of yourself. And I have not taken a vacation. So I usually take a vacation to Florida for a week with my family, and we couldn't do that because of COVID. So even like, and the beach is where I go to refresh and replenish. So even that has been robbed of me. But what I know I need to do is just take a week off where I'm doing nothing, and I'm just like laying outside in my backyard in a swimsuit and just like eating and doing all the things I would do here, just so I can completely detach and come back fresh and anew.
Yes, bring Florida. Well, bring the best parts of Florida to your backyard. That's exactly, Florida is my mother's getaway as well. And what she did was she bought the little resort plastic cups. She bought a little blended margarita and was like, I guess this is Florida now.
Creativity.
And I'm trying to do like more meditation and yoga and just those things that should be in my daily life and have a routine where I'm caring for myself. But it's hard. It's hard in this moment. It's hard when you're a person who works, does this, that, and the third. But it's important. And like self-care, you have to prioritize that, because this world doesn't give a damn about you.
Yeah.
If you don't care about you, no one else will.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Before we go,
I know. I want to keep talking forever. I'm like,
it's okay. When the pandemic is over, we'll do this in person. Welcome. Our office is our apartment.
Yes.
But did you have a question too?
No, same thing. Before we go, is there anything that you want to make sure you get out there? Any message you want to get out there? If you want to shout out the Twitter, the Gram, you have a podcast, right?
Ooh, I have a podcast is Real Drunk Show, and it's really, the whole idea of that podcast is like, I was having brunch with my friends, and we were having these dope conversations across everything. So I bring my friends who are experts at different things, and we have conversations about culture, theology, and justice issues. And we do it over drinks, and we laugh and act a fool while talking about these big important issues like we were doing at brunch.
Do you always get real drunk?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Best conversation.
Yeah, you can find that at realdrunkshow.com. I am at, my website is Kia Speaks also. You can find me on all social media at Kia Speaks. And I guess my one point is to just be good to people. Like, make sure that what you're doing doesn't cause harm to other folks. Just be good to one another. Like, that's what we need right now in this moment, and to build a world and society that we all want to live in.
Yeah, that's life too. We just want that. Please make everyone's journey on this planet easier.
And a lot of people have time to sit and think about doing that and talk about doing that before we're released into the world again to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Kia, thank you so much. This is such a treat.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
We're definitely going to do this again.
Yes.
Especially, we'll come to Atlanta, you come to New York, we'll figure something out.
Hey, I love it. I'm going everywhere once the world is safe again. I'm turning down no trips.
But stay safe, stay healthy, get that week off.
Thank you.
And thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.